Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, this Bitcoin chart is revealing a massive move coming very soon, while Bitcoin is getting much closer to eventually breaking out from this pattern, while Ethereum has already confirmed the breakout to the upside from this triangle pattern. So I'll be talking about all of that and so much more later in the video, so make sure to watch to the end. First of all, just taking a quick look at some Bitcoin ETF news today, because just over the last one day, BlackRock has bought another approximately 1,000 Bitcoin worth around $45 million US. And so as of right now, BlackRock is currently holding 76,750 BTC worth over $3.31 billion US in their spot Bitcoin ETF, as we can see here on BlackRock's own website. And so obviously this is good news for the price of Bitcoin, with BlackRock buying a lot of Bitcoin. Obviously, this is slowly taking a lot of Bitcoin off the market. Of course, over the longer term, this is very bullish for the price of Bitcoin, especially with the Bitcoin halving coming up in just a few months, because obviously the Bitcoin halving means even less Bitcoin is coming into the circulating supply, which means less Bitcoin to sell and less Bitcoin to buy. And of course, if Bitcoin is becoming scarcer and scarcer, that is good news for the price. And so despite what happens in the short term in the day-to-day price action, of course, the fundamentals and the macro is looking very bullish for Bitcoin over the next 1 to 2 years or so. And if we're taking a look at some Bitcoin charts, looking at the 3-day Bitcoin chart right here, this is the Bollinger Bands indicator and the Bollinger Bands width indicator. And now, first of all, if you're new to the channel, the Bollinger Bands basically shows us how volatile the price of Bitcoin has been, because essentially the Bollinger Bands are designed to try and keep the price of Bitcoin within the Bollinger Bands. And so, of course, if we see a massive volatile move in the price, the Bollinger Bands are going to expand in size to try and keep the price inside the Bollinger Bands. But over time, if we see more sideways price action, basically not as much volatility, these Bollinger Bands actually contract. And this Bollinger Bands width indicator basically tells us how wide the Bollinger Bands are. So of course, if the Bollinger Bands width indicator is down here at lower levels, that means the Bollinger Bands are very tight. And once again, when we see a squeeze in the Bollinger Bands, that usually happens after a time period of very low volatility or a lot of choppy sideways price action. And usually when we see a major squeeze in the Bollinger Bands, we usually end up seeing a major volatile move in the price of Bitcoin coming shortly after. And we can see exactly that happening in this first example back here at the very beginning of 2023. We saw a lot of sideways price action leading into this major squeeze in the Bollinger Bands, causing a major drop in the Bollinger Bands width. And then roughly around a week after we saw that major squeeze in the Bollinger Bands, we saw an extremely volatile move, that time to the upside. And a possible indication telling us what direction that volatile move could be in is basically if the price is in the top side or the lower side of the Bollinger Bands, basically above or below the center yellow line. And so as you can see, once again, in this first example in January 2023, the price of Bitcoin was trading just above that yellow line, just above the center line, before we saw that major volatile move. So we ended up playing out that move in the bullish direction. And if we're taking a look at the next example, we saw a very volatile move after a major squeeze in this 3-day Bitcoin Bollinger Bands right in around August 2023. But of course, this time around, if you're looking closely here, the price of Bitcoin was actually trading just below that yellow line, just below the center line. And so ultimately, when we played out that volatile move, of course, that was a bearish move because the price was below the center line. And then if we're looking at this third example, that was more similar to the first example, where the price was trading above the center line, and we actually saw a perfect retest of that level and bounce back to the upside. And so once again, we saw that major squeeze in the Bollinger Bands, dropping the Bollinger Bands width to the downside. And shortly after that squeeze in the Bollinger Bands indicator, we saw an extremely volatile move to the upside with the price above the center line. And if I measure the size of these previous volatile moves in the price of Bitcoin so that we can get an idea of what size move we could be expecting moving forwards, first of all, in this first example, that volatile move from where it roughly started to where it roughly ended, just the volatile section, we saw around a 30% move almost straight to the upside in the price of Bitcoin just over around 1 to 2 weeks. And if we're looking at this second example, we saw a volatile move pretty much straight to the downside of around 20% within around 1 single week. And if we're looking at this third example from where roughly that volatile move started to where it roughly ended, just a volatile section, that was around a 26% move to the upside in around 9 days, so around 1.5 weeks. And so basically, we're talking about a possible 20 to 30% move in the price of Bitcoin within around 1 to 2 weeks. And so just for example, let's just say if we saw a 20% move to the downside, that will put the price of Bitcoin at around 34 to 35,000, or a 30% move down, that will put the price at around 30,000. But on the other hand, if we see around a 20% move up, that will put the price at around 51 to 52,000, or a 30% move up, that will put the price closer towards around 56,000. And so, of course, those are just estimates. Those are not guaranteed numbers that we're definitely going to hit. Those are just estimates, once again, based on these previous examples. And if you're looking at where the price is trading right now, we're actually sitting just above the center line for the Bollinger Bands indicator here on the 3-day Bitcoin chart, which means, at least for now, if we start to play out that bullish move very soon, as of right now, it is looking more likely that it's going to be a bullish move rather than a bearish move. And so basically in the coming weeks, we're most likely going to see a very volatile move in the price of Bitcoin. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin chart, right now the daily Bitcoin RSI is getting very close to a breakout above this descending line of resistance, which will be a bullish signal once we actually confirm a breakout here in the RSI. Because as I've explained in recent videos here on the channel, once we ultimately break out in the RSI above this descending line of resistance, that is a signal to help to invalidate the bearish divergence, which obviously would be bullish for the price of Bitcoin if we're invalidating a bearish divergence. And as for the momentum right now for the price of Bitcoin, of course, right now we're lacking momentum. We don't really have a lot of momentum. But with that being said, the MACD is still currently looking more bullish than bearish. But once again, it's not showing a lot of momentum. And if we're taking a look at the DXY on the daily time frame, of course, over the last 1 to 2 days, we've actually seen another short-term dip to the downside in the DXY, which is good news for Bitcoin. Because as you can clearly see on this chart right here, once again, when the DXY is bullish, that is usually bearish for Bitcoin and crypto, and vice versa. If the DXY is bearish, that is usually bullish for Bitcoin and crypto. And so obviously, if we continue to see a move to the downside again in the DXY, that would be another bullish signal for Bitcoin and crypto. So I'll keep you up to date on this DXY here in these videos on this channel. So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. But anyway, zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, and right now the price of Bitcoin is still basically consolidating sideways in this choppy sideways price range, at least in the short term. And obviously, I've been talking about this playing out since all the way back here in the price of Bitcoin here on the channel. But in case you're new to this channel, this area of support is sitting in between around 41.7k to around 42.2k, and this area of resistance is sitting in between around 43.3k to 43.7k. And so at least as of right now, while the price is still in between that area of support and that area of resistance, obviously in the short term, we're looking relatively neutral while we're still chopping around in this sideways price range. And while the price of Bitcoin is basically chopping around sideways, obviously the Bitcoin hodlers out there are not really gaining or losing anything because the price is just going sideways. But for anyone running a grid bot right now, you have been making a lot of easy profits in this sideways price range right here. This is basically a gold mine to make easy profits. And if you want to know more about grid bots and how to easily profit from choppy sideways price action, then stick around to the end of this video to find out more. And now if we ultimately confirm a breakout above this area of resistance, then in that case, I'd be targeting around 48.8k based on this massive inverse head and shoulders pattern in the price of Bitcoin here on the 8-hour time frame. But in order to actually confirm this pattern and activate that bullish price target, we ideally need to see a breakout above this resistance at around 43.7k sometime soon, as in sometime over the next few days. Because basically, if the price of Bitcoin continues chopping around sideways for the next 1 week, or if we continue lower in the price of Bitcoin over the next 1 week or so, then of course, in that case, this right shoulder would become way too large compared to the left shoulder, which would basically invalidate the formation phase for this pattern. And so once again, we need to see a breakout sometime soon above this resistance in order to confirm this pattern right here. But either way, even if we take longer to confirm the pattern and break out above resistance, of course, in that case, we wouldn't necessarily have the inverse head and shoulders pattern playing out, but obviously breaking out above resistance is still a bullish signal either way. And vice versa, of course, breaking below support is obviously a bearish signal. So if we broke below around 41.7k, as I've explained recently on the channel, I would expect a drop down towards around 39 to 40,000, simply based on previous support and resistance, and also a lot of liquidity sitting around those prices. But once again, I would only expect a drop down towards those levels if we first confirm a break below this area of support. And so like I've been saying, while the price of Bitcoin is still in between this support and this resistance, we're still looking relatively neutral because we're still in a sideways price range. And if we're taking a look at this 4-hour Bitcoin chart, right now the price of Bitcoin is also still forming a new symmetrical triangle pattern with resistance sitting at roughly around 43.3K and support sitting at roughly around 42.4K. And now if we end up seeing a confirmed break below that level of support, then that would set up a bearish price target for this pattern at around 40.8K. But on the other hand, if we confirm a breakout above that line of resistance right here, then that would set up a bullish price target for this pattern, sitting closer towards around 44.9K to 45K. But as always, it's important to remember other areas of support and resistance. So even if we break out above this line right here at around 43.3K, of course, we would still be running into resistance right around here, going all the way up towards around 43.7K. And so ultimately, I'd like to see a breakout above 43.7K in order to actually confirm this bullish price target and flip much more bullish again in the short term. And vice versa, if we break below this line of support for this triangle pattern, of course, we still have this area of support down here, as I mentioned earlier. But either way, whether we break out in the bullish direction or the bearish direction, of course, we can make money in either direction with long positions and short positions. And personally, I take those trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And also, as you can see right here, Bitflex is running an exclusive Apple Watch Series 9 giveaway, but only if you use that link down below this video to make a Bitflex account and basically deposit $100 worth of crypto or more and make one trade over on Bitflex. And so if you simply do that, just sign up to Bitflex, deposit $100 and make one trade that can enter you into this giveaway in the running to win a brand new Apple Watch Series 9. And so the link down below this video will actually take you to this page right here where you can sign up to Bitflex and enter this giveaway if you want to. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well get set up or ready to go on Bitflex or Bybit to get these extra bonuses or enter this giveaway right here. And just before getting into the Ethereum part of this video, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, because right now this is still showing a lot of liquidity just to the upside, sitting at around 44,000 to 44.1K. And so basically, if Bitcoin breaks out above 44.1K, we will actually see billions of dollars worth of short liquidations if the price breaks out above 44.1K. And as for other liquidity levels, we do have some amount of liquidity at around 44.9K and more liquidity at around 46,500. And as for liquidity to the downside, we have a decent amount of liquidity at around 41.6K to 41.8K and more downside liquidations sitting in between around 39,500 to 40,000. And so that's why I said earlier, if we break to the downside below this area of support, so below around 41.7K, then in that case, I would expect a drop down towards 39 to 40,000 based on a lot of liquidity sitting around those prices. Because basically these areas of liquidity act as magnets for the price of Bitcoin, usually where we have most liquidity that is attracting the price of Bitcoin towards those areas. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily ETH to US dollar chart. And just over the last one day, we have finally now confirmed a new bullish cross here in the daily Ethereum MACD. And so this simply means we are now starting to flip more bullish again in terms of the momentum. And so overall, I would expect some slight bullish price action moving forwards, but at least for now, we do not currently have a lot of momentum compared to some of these previous moves. And perhaps that's due to the fact that the bearish divergence on the daily ETH to US dollar chart is technically still confirmed and playing out, at least as of right now. But what is also playing out just in the much shorter term right here is a new symmetrical triangle pattern that is breaking out and playing out right now. And I've been talking about this over the last few days. Obviously, if you enter the trade anywhere near this breakout, you're doing very well right now. And the technical price target for this breakout is still sitting at around 25.80. So from the point of the breakout to that price target, that was around a 12% move to the upside, or from where we are right now to that price target, that's still around a 9% move to the upside. And so personally, considering the price has already confirmed the breakout and we have this active bullish price target for the breakout, of course, right now I am actually in a long position trading this move to the upside. And now, obviously, that is not personal financial advice. I don't know your personal financial situation. I'm just letting you know my personal trades, trading these moves in the price of ETH and other cryptos. And once again, if you want to take those trades in the price of any crypto, check out those links down below this video if you want to get those extra bonuses or enter that Apple Watch giveaway. But even though this bullish price target is still technically active right now, of course, we still need to keep in mind there are other levels of resistance to pay attention to. For example, this area of resistance, which was previously significant resistance for the price of ETH, and this area is sitting in between around 23.90 going up towards around 24.30. And so just keep in mind that even though we have that bullish price target, which is technically active, of course, in this area right here, we could see the price struggle going higher, at least in the short term. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Solana on the 6-hour time frame, considering Solana has been a highly requested altcoin in the comment section below these videos. And just before talking about the price of Solana, of course, just the other day, Solana, the network, did actually have another outage, which was actually the first outage in about 1 year. But with that being said, obviously with a blockchain network going offline, even if it happens once a year, that's obviously still not a very good thing to happen. And so, of course, we can still make money trading the price of Solana, for example, buying and selling on exchanges, but personally, I wouldn't necessarily keep a lot on the Solana blockchain in case those outages actually happen. And now, of course, if those outages happen, that just means basically you cannot access anything that's on the Solana blockchain just for the time period where the outage is happening. And then after the validators reboot the Solana network, basically you can regain access to whatever you had on the Solana blockchain. And so basically during the time periods where the Solana blockchain has an outage, you essentially can't send any transactions, which basically means your funds are frozen while the network is down, which is obviously not a great thing to happen. But if you have some Solana, for example, sitting on exchanges, usually even during those outages, you can still trade the price of Solana. So once again, I'm covering the price of Solana, considering it has been a requested altcoin. And so looking at important support and resistance levels, first of all, we are now bouncing from this level of support, which is sitting at around $93 to $94. But if we end up seeing a confirmed break below around $93, then honestly, we could end up seeing a drop back down towards around $87 to $88. And in a more bearish scenario, if we actually broke below that level of support, we should have more support down towards around $78 to $80. And as for horizontal levels of resistance, we have a small amount of resistance right here, sitting at around $99 to $100. Above that, we also have this important golden pocket area of resistance in between $105 to $107. And that is the most significant area of resistance, at least in the short term right now for the price of Solana. But if we saw a breakout above $107, then in that case, the next resistance is sitting at around $114. But on top of all of that, we also have this descending line of resistance just in the imminent short term, which is sitting at around $96 approximately. And this is also potentially forming a descending triangle pattern with descending resistance and horizontal support. And now typically a descending triangle pattern is a bearish pattern because more often than not, a descending triangle pattern breaks to the downside. And now, of course, it's not impossible to see a breakout to the upside from a descending triangle pattern, but that is simply the less likely scenario. But either way, looking at the technical price target for this descending triangle pattern, if we break below that line of support that I just mentioned earlier at around $93 to $94, then in that case, that would set up a bearish price target at around $83. But if we see a breakout above this line of resistance, then that could set up a bullish price target at around $109. And so we're looking at a potential 13% move in the price of Solana, but obviously we also need to keep in mind these other levels of support and resistance. But either way, whether we see a breakout to the upside or to the downside, or just continue chopping around sideways, we can make money in all of those scenarios by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. Because the video in the top left shows you how you can open long positions and short positions to make money if the price is bullish or bearish, and the video in the bottom left shows you those grid bots, how to easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.